Patrick, thank you so much for opening up your farm today, providing us an opportunity to come. I'm traveling around the district. We're typically in Washington, D.C. about 3 weeks out of a month, typically. And we typically will have about a week or so in which we're able to travel the district. And I wanted to make sure that we remain grounded, connected on the ground with what's going on, and especially in our agriculture community and with our farmers. So Patrick was kind enough to open up the farm today so that we could actually come out and do a couple things. He's going to lead us on a tour, but before we go on the tour, I would love to do a couple things. I would love to hear from you, in terms of what issues are on your minds. I would love to share, give an update, brief update of where things are in Washington, D.C. And to kick us off, I would like to give a big hand to Patrick Brown. Thank you.
All right, so as Representative Davis stated, we're not just want to highlight what the work we're doing, but the work that all farmers are still doing in rural Warren County. This farm is just an example of hard work and dedication over 4 generations, trying to continue the aspect of row crop production. We farm in 3 counties, Franklin, Vance, and Warren. We farm about 520 acres of wheat, soybean, corn, produce, and industrial hemp. The produce and industrial hemp is our specialty crop, where we're able to rotate commodity acres into existing specialty crop production. One of the aspects of growing specialty crops is being able to grow indoor 12 months out of the year so that we can provide a quality product to our customer base here locally, overcoming food insecurities in rural communities such as Warren. And I want to take a tour at one of the high tunnels that we have behind us, where it's totally committed to a CSA, community supported agriculture program for the local community. So if y'all can follow me over here. That where we only have one local grocery store, and that local grocery store is to support over 13,000 residents. And a lot of times they're picking over the same produce each and every week. It's not a good quality product, and they're having to lean on outside counties to bring in fresh quality produce. So our aspect is to always have ready available produce to those consumer bases, especially in the rural counties.
Patrick, you did say it was a little warm. It is a little warm.
We're at the heart of the summer. Right in the beginning months, we getting some very hot and humid weather conditions this week. So what that does, it brings on stress to the plants. A lot of pests may encounter the tunnels, so it's causing us to have to spend more money on input. And that's why it's always good to have subsidized programs for local farmers like myself to help support us during drastic weather conditions. Last year we faced some very stressed and drastic weather with drought and not enough rain, and some of those support dollars that came from the federal government still have not reached farmers like myself. And we're now almost in the middle of the growing season, and that's why it's important that we have representatives like you, Representative Davis, to be on the ground and see what we're dealing with. All right. We continue to walk. Oh, did anybody have a question about high tunnel while I'm here? I'm sorry. No question. Anything? All right. All right. So we just keep on moving around. Excuse the mess. We're able to grow anywhere between 250 to 300 acres of this special crop product each and every year as a federal grower under a USDA license. This is a buffer program for us that allow us to rotate this crop in other diverse commodity structures such as double cropping wheat or soybean or planting corn. So this gives us an opportunity to bring direct income to the farm, as well as be able to have a market to the buyer and create clean energy. This product can create fiber textiles for clothing to be incorporated into the cotton industry that North Carolina leads in by a blend of a 35% 70% blend mix for consumer product brands like Patagonia or VF Corporation. So we have sold to both of those consumers or customers in the last 4 years. Low maintenance, low fertility, low input costs. This is a product growing like this can help save farm each and every year, and being able to put more inputs into other crops that need that type of input in order to have a successful crop or successful yield. So industrial hemp is one of the ways that small rural farms can add value with direct markets to a consumer base. And that's why we grow each and every year. This is our 6th year growing industrial hemp.
6 years. Let me ask a question of our farmers, Patrick. I have several questions here at this point. And actually, I mean, what we can do is kind of engage while we're moving through the tour here. But we're standing right here, and my question is equipment. You know, how's it been like in terms of just trying to make sure that you have the equipment that you need to get the job done?
May I speak on that?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Brenda Bryant. My husband is John Bryant. We own JBQ Farm in Dance County. And we have been farming now about 2 to 3 years. And we have engaged with Patrick. Patrick has worked with us in doing like bush hogging and stuff like that. But what has happened, since we were starting out, we didn't have a whole lot of funds, so we bought a farm all tractor. Well, we got it for like $4,000, but it's cost us over $12,000 now to try to get it going. So since we couldn't really get it going, we ended up buying a John Deere. But we had to finance to get it done. So therefore, we're trying to get the farm going, but we have interacted with CSA and then trying to have the attachments to buy, you know, the tillers and all these other attachments we need to cultivate the land has been an issue. But so it is costly, and I don't know, and right now we're, as Patrick has stated, that Warren County is a community where it is a desert. Is a food desert. So we're trying to help our local church as well, because there's a lot of senior citizens there. And we have started with, thank God, we had chickens. So when the egg prices went up, we were able to we gave our senior citizens in our churches eggs.
How about that?
And so we're doing all these things, but it is a cost, because now we need to really work on our chicken coops. We need to do all these things. So I don't know how we get funds to do that, but you know, but we have a lot of outgoing and not a lot of incoming.
Just realize a few things that things that are important and things that we've been working on. One thing that always tend to come up is just lost land. And been working with Representative Sanford Bishop out of Georgia, trying to make sure that we are protecting the land that's out there. Getting more technical assistance out is really important. Not only that, we have to continue to make sure, you know, that there is access to credit and grant programs that are existing. Let me share, if I could, the big picture. You know, the big picture right now with, you know, what we're going through is we have the appropriations bill, and I'm gonna wait because we have a legend that is making her way here today, and I think it's so worthy. Let's give her a hand as she's making her way. Congresswoman Clayton, how are you doing today?
I'm alive and well. This is my gentleman farmer here. I had to be rescued.
You had to be rescued. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, come on up.
How you doing this morning?
Now, I'll put it this way, and I want everyone to know I serve on the House Agriculture Committee. But long before I served, and the person that helped pave the way, the Honorable Eva Clayton. Come on now.
I knew him when.
She
I was
definitely.
supposed to be introducing him, so I'm gonna thank him for coming. I knew him before he became mayor.
That's right.
We had the honor of swearing him in.
Was it when I was in the Air Force?
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
I was a lieutenant in the Air Force. Congresswoman Clayton swore me in.
Yeah, I'm still living. I'm still walking.
Oh.
with the grace of the good Lord, I'm still moving. This is an advocacy group, but it's also an information group. And he has come at our request, and he's willing to share information with us. And they are willing to share some information with you.
Absolutely.
And questions, and I just want to emphasize it and encourage you to know that it goes both ways, right?
That's right.
This young man approached me and said he knew me 30 years ago. And worked with me through the Young Democrats. So some of you have been around for a while and do know me, because Mr. Hunt, I knew him, I guess, before he went to college, so that tells you. There you go. But
He just graduated.
Thank you.
he just graduated from Social Security.
Oh, no.
You're still sharp.
I knew him when his son was his age. But thank you for coming. Boy, the sun is hot, so I don't keep you out here long. But part of the discussion, obviously, not only with farmers, but those who are interested in food security, is knowing how you can advocate for us. But he is a former farmer himself. He might not own a farm, but he still picked tobacco, right?
Oh yes, plenty of days.
Food security, SNAP, all of the food programs, whether it's school lunch programs, and also the farm service programs. Some of the farmers now know from personal experience that their loans are on hold and not responded to. And I know you're fighting for that. I just want to emphasize what you're doing about that.
Yes. Thank you so much, the Honorable Eva Clayton, y'all. So I want to just kind of take the time to outline where we are. And also, again, I want to thank Patrick for having us here at the farm today, so that we can have more of just a conversation with each other. Where we are, there's several moving parts currently that's taking place in Washington, D.C. First is we're under a continuing resolution. The continuing resolution is a full year continuing resolution. That was the last vote that was taken, which is going to now take us all the way to October. Essentially what that's doing is that's keeping all the programs, everything basically funded, consistent with the CR that we passed through the end of the fiscal year. So that's what's currently funding agriculture. Okay. The second thing that I would bring attention to is the more recent, I'll say the one big beautiful bill, okay, which is the reconciliation package that's come through. The reconciliation package has been clearly a bill, the one big beautiful bill that's been totally partisan bill that is not continued in the bipartisan spirit that we have traditionally seen with our agriculture committee. Typically, if there's anything that's more bipartisan in Washington, is agriculture and armed services. The only thing right now that's even semblance of bipartisan is left right now with armed services, because the bill that came out of committee, the Ag Committee, House Ag, it was totally in partisan lines. Now there's a reason for that, and that's what Ms. Clayton had begun to allude to. You know, part of it was they wanted to realize at a minimum of about 4% of reduction in the reconciliation package from Ag alone. Long story short, you end up seeing close to $300 billion cuts, mainly nutrition. And what is really concerning, I would say, is then the greater part of it, which is to now start sending some of this to the states. It's essentially an unfunded mandate to the states. I remember sitting in a committee, and I don't know what state they were talking about, but it definitely wasn't North Carolina, where there was this conversation that the states are sitting on all this money. Yeah, the state of North Carolina, the last I checked, is not just sitting on all this money. You know, let me put some perspective on this. Patrick, you began to outline this. So, out west, we've dealt with Helene. The assessment on Helene alone is about $60 billion that's needed to deal with Helene. In the December package, the continuing resolution that we voted on, we actually were able to increase assistance, those dollars coming out of Washington. Our portion of it, North Carolina's portion, is probably in the line of about $20 billion. You put that on top of commitments that the state has put into helping with Helene, and we're probably shy of being halfway of the $60 billion of a need to deal with Helene. And to put some perspective on this, you can take nearly an entire state's budget, just shut down the state of North Carolina just to fill that bucket alone.
Right.
So I'm not seeing where all this money is just sitting out there, you know, that now can be used to fill an unfunded mandate. And that, you know, had a lot to do with my decision to vote, you know, against the package there. For those who've been in, you know, this business, when you start talking about Medicaid as well, and farming this out, then we talk about, you've heard, cutting, getting rid of, dismantling the Department of Education, and then sending funds to the state. And more, we have heard, and at least there had been one memo that was out, that all those funds, even in education, were not intact, that there was reductions within education. I mean, the only place to fill those would be the General Assembly. And if the General Assembly's not doing it, for instance, when we talk about Medicaid, then it goes back to the counties. We've already been down that road in North Carolina. We went down the road, and once we went down the road, everybody agreed that we needed to send Medicaid back to the state level, you know, not resting at the county. But where I'm heading, if we were to sustain all of these efforts and programs with these unfunded mandates that are coming out to the state of North Carolina, there would have to be a commitment, of increased commitment at the state level. If not, it would come down to the county level, and the only other place it would come from a county perspective would be property taxes. So there are real concerns. I have real concerns. And if that's not good enough, I mean, I'm just saying on the one big beautiful bill, this is not Don Davis, it's CBO, that says once you deal with the one big beautiful bill over a 10-year window, it would add over $2 trillion to the deficit. And that's hence part of this argument that you tend to see, are there enough cuts? Does it go far enough? And, you know, at the end of the day, it adds to the deficit. This is not me. Some are trying to dispute CBO's findings, but CBO, to be clear, they're not Democrat, they're not Republican. Okay? It's the neutral referee that looks at all this. Now when we come and we're still looking at the big picture, in the background with all of this is, as I was saying before, the appropriations work is still taking place with those reductions on the appropriations side. Meanwhile, what I think is the most important takeaway in all of this is you can move forward with reconciliation. You know, we can even still try to crank out some sort of budget. But at the end of the day, there is no substitute for a farm bill. We need a farm bill to basically reauthorize programs at the appropriate levels to deal with a lot of the policies around agriculture. And, you know, right now I can say, you know, I am concerned about, you know, programs, you know, some of the programs that are, you know, there are discussions about being eliminated or reduced. I can tell you I sit on the rural development, on the subcommittee, ranking member of commodities markets, rural development subcommittee, and I have great concerns when we are talking about, you know, reducing, for instance. And by the way, agriculture is huge. I mean, the farm bill goes from broadband issues, housing. I mean, I'm mentioning those because there's so many other things outside of what we would traditionally think. It's just, you know, those impacts on the farm operations. But there are great concerns when we are looking at potentially reducing rural development facilities, fire departments. I mean, so many rely upon these programs, and so that's why I'm here. I mean, I'm here to share where we are, to let you know we're fighting every single day to make sure we're standing up for our farmers, in particular the agriculture community. This is what I've heard from so many. I mean, they're just being pounded. Farmers are being pounded. And they're at their wits' end in many ways. And I just want to put all this together. I mean, you said, you know, for instance, with the hemp, lower input costs, but what we tend to see, broadly speaking, are higher input costs, inflation. We've dealt with drought in the east, Helene in the west. Just so many challenges that are coming before us. And what I see as the greater challenge is, one, while we were talking, when we were over earlier, we were talking about access to credit, to capital. And I realize that is important, but at the same time, I also get that you can't loan your way out of really a crisis that we're experiencing. There needs to be meaningful help at the table, you know, in a real way. Now, when we talk about the reconciliation package, I actually support the reference pricing increases. I think that is positive. I mean, farmers, and this is just to help everyone know, they don't get to set their prices. They don't just get to set the prices. You know, so when you're dealing with increase in costs, you have to offset that. So I support that. I definitely support crop insurance provisions. That is so important. Now, when you get into market access, and we know that tariffs, that's been a big part of this conversation. I can tell you what farmers have told me. They said, Congressman, we just can't keep taking it on the chin. The market's never recovered from the former administration. Nevertheless, now we see all these tariffs that are being rolled out in a way that creates so much uncertainty that's out there. So these are things I'm hearing. The House, you know, put some funds in place to deal with MAP in terms of market access. The Senate was never committed to it. So now we're seeing the Senate that's rolling out their version, in the process of rolling out their version, and even of the reconciliation package. So this is a work in progress, a lot of moving parts, but what is most important to me is to be here on the ground so that we can continue to speak of those things that are important to you. So thank you again, and I would love to open it up to hear from you, and then we'll just continue on the tour. And I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I want to. That was a very good explanation, but let me understand. What confidence do you have will the reconciliation a priority to the budget that's a continuing resolution?
The question, just to make sure everybody can hear, is what confidence do I have that reconciliation will take priority over the appropriations bill? Right now, it's been the entire focus. I mean, it really has been the focus. That's where most of the oxygen's been in the room for the last month or so. Trying to get all of these packages, because they rolled through committee, the different committees, to meet up, which we have voted on the floor. And I can say, I mean, technically there was bipartisan opposition to the one big beautiful bill. Yeah, that's right. Technically, there was bipartisan opposition to it. And the far right tend to believe, again, they're not making deep enough cuts. And I mean, you heard some of that too, in terms of this whole thing with Elon Musk and Trump.
What that means to me, and comment on it, that what you face in responding to your constituents, you're dealing with the reconciliation bill, right?
That's right.
So to the extent that the Senate may give some relief to it, what do you think that this group could possibly do in communicating with? It's not at the Senate level, right?
Yes,
And
the Senate's
so-
still working on it.
Right. And those of us who want to be advocates have to say, you know, we need to help our elected officials, right? And do you think it makes any sense that we communicate that we want to help you, senators, our two senators? We've already communicated with you, right?
Yeah.
And you also with us, too. And it's them too, it's true. Do we give up?
No,
Okay.
absolutely.
I'm just saying.
Congresswoman said, do we give up?
I'm just saying.
Come on, we can answer that together.
All
No!
right. So if we don't
Now,
give
what we do is, as the Congresswoman is alluding to, obviously I represent, and I'm honored, genuinely honored, to represent the 1st Congressional District, Warren County, you know, the northeastern region here. But we also have 2 senators that represent us. You know, please never give up. Make sure you're sharing your thoughts, your ideas, just as you have with me. Already began to share those with me, with our senators, Senator Tillis, Senator Budd. Matter of fact, Patrick, I'm just saying, you've been a leader. I mean, I've seen Patrick in Washington, D.C. several times. He's made the trip, come to the office. We've been together in the district, and I'm just letting everyone know that I don't know of a finer advocate. He's not just advocating for himself in the conversations that we have been engaged with. He's advocating for everybody. And he's been making those trips, and not just Patrick. I see others too, Arlene, Congresswoman. I mean, there's many. This is the time now that we continue to advocate, make our voices heard in the process, let them know as we're going through all of this, what's important to us, and what is important, what's the real impact to the farming community right here in North Carolina. Because back to what we were beginning to talk about a little bit earlier, I mean, there are regional impacts that are different. So this is very dynamic, and and it's important for us to hear, what programs. We still have not actually executed a farm bill. We've not passed a farm bill.
It's over a year.
And part of the conversation is with reconciliation, because it's really pulling some of the dollars out of the farm bill, is coming forward with what some are calling a skinny farm bill,
And
or a
excuse me,
scaled down
Congressman,
farm
we got
bill.
about 10 more minutes before we're gonna have to leave.
Okay.
Just want to hear that.
So there's a skinny farm bill. There's still some conversations about the farm bill. So this is what we need to do. Take this time, pause. I know it takes us from our busy schedules and work, but to always advocate and share our voices and our concerns. Thank you.
My comment is relative to SNAP Ed dollars, new
Yes.
budget. I work with the University of North Carolina Center for Health and Promotion Disease Prevention. SNAP Ed support our gardens that we develop across the state, 8 counties, several here in one county, and the concern if those dollars are cut, the effect it's going to have on these marginalized communities, because our focus is SNAP eligible families, making healthy foods more accessible, also building their capacity to be a part of the local economy. So this transition from marginalized to being part of the solution. So we're really concerned about that, and we've been advocating. So
No,
just want to put that in here.
I hear you loud and clear, and thank you for what you're doing, helping to, feed North Carolinians. You're talking about women, children, seniors, veterans. Any veterans here, by the way? Yeah, I mean, many are impacted by these cuts that have been proposed so far that are moving. And you're talking again on top of that, in order to sustain these programs, sending an unfunded mandate to the state.
Yep.
So these are of great importance. If I may just spend a brief moment, and I know these sound like big numbers, so I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I can. But number 7 days in a week, right? 7. It takes about $7 trillion to run the U.S. government. Okay, we bring in about $5 trillion in terms of dollars that are coming in. You have about a $2 trillion gap, which is called the deficit. So on top of that deficit, what we're talking about now is administration adding to it, with the tax package, about a $500 billion, about $500 billion or so. But I do want to put some perspective on all of this. So the bigger part is going to be Social Security. Is that important? Absolutely, Social Security is important. I mean, that's a little over $1 trillion by itself. Now, interestingly, the president said we're not going to touch Social Security. That's what he has said. Okay. Then the next portion, you have Medicare. Medicare is important, right? Okay. Now he has said, don't touch Medicare. All right. Now I'm gonna start putting some perspective on this. So you can eliminate the Department of Education, just totally dismantle it, and we're not going to send any money to the states. You can dismantle the VA. If legally you could, just stop paying any benefits to veterans, eliminate the Department of VA. Let's eliminate the Department of Transportation. It doesn't get you even to anywhere close to that $2 trillion or so that they're trying to, talking about, and it's about a $2.2 trillion to deal with the deficit and the tax package alone. So I'm trying to put some perspective. Now the only real things that are left out there is, well, you have defense, but defense has gone up, spending. So the only thing you left to get the money where you're making the cuts, because you can't touch the interest on it. You can't touch the interest. You got to pay your bills. The only thing really, the 2 buckets that are left that's getting most of the attention is Medicaid, your nutrition SNAP programs. But the challenge is, I don't think you can realize the level of reduction that they want through essential medicated nutrition alone.
And the harm that will cause.
Right, that's
I
correct.
mean, you cut Medicaid, technically you cut Medicare, because some of the things, if I'm, I'm old, I need to go to the nursing home, right? That nursing home is subsidized by Medicaid,
That's right.
even though I am financially able to pay my full weight, right? That does not cover all the things you need for that nursing home.
That's right.
So you technically, I'm eligible for Medicare, right? So technically you cut out Medicare too, because that nursing home needs that kind of sustainability for income, right?
That's right.
And you cut SNAP. SNAP does feed me if I'm poor, but SNAP also subsidizes many of the stores that are here, right?
That's right.
So it's not just us poor folks getting
That's
SNAP.
correct.
So it undermines the viability and sustainability of our community, right?
That's right.
So please make that case, right?
That's right.
Make the
farmers,
and farmers. The farmers sell, right? They're subsidized, not subsidized, but they are paid for their crops if they sell them, right?
That's right.
So it has a tremendous impact on rural communities, but on the lives of people who you represent and care about. So make that case, right?
Absolutely.
I know you're making it already.
Absolutely.
You're already making
Absolutely.
it. I just came to give you
No,
a
no,
little
no.
spirit.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I
That's right.
know,
That's
hug
right.
him in love. Yeah,
I mean, long story short, I mean, when we're producing, I mean, this is, I'm gonna approach it this way. So I went to pre-K center. I was talking to the young kids and said, "Where does food come from?" They said the grocery store, but it doesn't come from the grocery store. You got to go back to the farmer, but it's the farmer that sell it to the grocery store, and it impacts the entire economy. And we
And
absolutely get
agriculture
that.
really is North Carolina's #1 industry.
It is. It surely is.
Not the technical stuff.
That's
It's
right.
really
Ag
agriculture.
is our #1 industry in North Carolina, and really pronounced in the eastern North Carolina. Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's just
yeah.
that's our way of life. It's our heritage, and I believe it's so important that we give great attention to this, because the aim must be to keep operations like Brown Farms here going, keep them active. Like you said, 4th generation. That means I'm gonna give an interpretation here, okay, from the many farmers that I've spoken to. Their heart is to turn the operation over to their children. But now we got to be mindful of what we're turning over.
In fact, their children walking away from it.
Yeah, they run away from it.
And you're right.
The kids run away from it.
You're absolutely right.
I mean, you're talking one hard work and
And no money coming in.
trying to figure out how to make it work, make the numbers work.
He is the exception, and we're very proud of him.
So Patrick, I want to say to you today, because I keep getting this look over here, is we want to do everything to help you and the farmers in this community to continue to farm. If it's your choice, if your children's desire is to take over the family farm, to make that a reality. That is the American dream. And we have to keep the American dream within reach right here in eastern North Carolina.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.